Thank you for joining us, Karin, and sharing your experience. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Mark. My name is Karin Olsson, and I am the project manager for two large life projects, Life Connects and Improve Aquatic Life. And I work at the County Administrative Board of Scania in the southern part of Sweden.
Okay, so the two projects that you're working on at the moment, what are they?
The aim of the project is to restore different water ecosystems, rivers, lakes, wetlands, and even coastal areas. So we try to take the whole holistic approach to look at the catchment and see what problems you have and try to solve them, not one by one, but together as a whole.
Yeah. So, and you're the project manager for these two projects, yes?
Yes, for both of these two projects.
So how do you develop and implement a successful life project then?
Well, first of all, you have to write a good application to the European Commission. And to do that, I would say you have to find very good partners that are engaged and can come up with their own restoration measures so they feel that they have the mandate to do it. Because if you try to come and say, well, we want you to do that, I don't think the application will be as good as when all the partners feel that they have the mandate for their part.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously quite successful at building the two big projects that you have at the moment. When did they start?
The first one started in 2019, so we have been going on for a while, and it would actually end next year, but we will have to prolong it for 2 more years, so until 2028 for different reasons. The other one, the Improve Aquatic Life, started last year because we wanted to build on the first one, but now we will have two projects. We didn't think we would get it on the first try, but we did. So it started last year in September and will go on until 2031.
Okay.
So they are quite long and with a large budget.
And are these whole catchment studies, or is it restricted to a specific area?
No, in both of them. In the first one, we work in 7 different catchments in the more southwest of the southern parts of Sweden. And in the second one, we work in 20 river catchment areas on the coastal areas outside this catchment for the whole part of southern Sweden, more or less.
Okay, so you must have a big challenge engaging all the stakeholders on each of these projects. How does that work?
Yeah, that's one of the big challenges in this large project because there are a lot of different actors involved in all the different restorations actions that will go on, and also information and communication and so on. But as partners, we have 9 of the county in the southern parts of Sweden. And they have the knowledge about their catchment areas, the rivers, what are the important stakeholders to have an early dialogue with. And in all places where we do restoration measures on a landowner's permissions, then we write an agreement that we are allowed to do the restoration measure on his land, but they will see that it will be sustained and will work for a long period of time.
Yes. So you have to engage these stakeholders and get their agreements before the project even starts, yeah?
Yes, in the last one we said to all the partners, you have to have at least had the first dialogue with all the stakeholders that can be important for the success of the restoration measure. And they should have given you a positive feedback. So if you have that, you can take the the object into the project.
Yeah, yeah. And do you often get conflicting views from different stakeholders, or how do you align everybody for the project?
Yeah, of course. When you come out the first time, they say, well, we have had this, for example, barrier here forever. So why should we take it away? It was my grandfather who built it. So of course you have this cultural values. You can have other values that they see, and then you have to explain why is it important to restore a river back to a more natural state or create wetlands. Because if you explain that you will actually decrease the risk of flooding or drought, then they start to understand, well, this can be a benefit for me as well, because we have problems with drought in the summer or flooding in the autumn. So it's very important to try to find common goals and more or less a win-win solution, because then they often are very positive after a while, and you can be able to have this.
Yes. Do you find the same applies to balancing, for example, hydro generation and environmental impacts, or is that a more difficult balance to make?
No, in the new project that started last year, we actually wanted to try to restore back, for example, wetlands, because in this part of the country, 90% of all the wetlands are lost due to land use change for agriculture and forest purposes. And that's why we have a huge problem with drought and flooding. And with the climate change, the problem will not be less, it will increase in the future. So it's really important that we start to work with this type of restoration measures that will take into account the resilience of the ecosystem.
Yeah. And what role does scientific support or science play in the projects?
It's really important because we as water manager, we want to restore. We want to go out and implement measures needed to get free-flowing rivers and good functional wetlands. But to know that we have done the right restoration measure at the right place, we have to monitor and see what the effects really are afterwards. And here the academia is really important because they have the tools to be able to study the effects before and after and come up and analyze the results and say, well, this worked really well. So that's the way that we can get best practice and get the really good methods that we rely on, that we can say, well, this works.
Yes, and maybe you're lucky having the second large project starting just before the end of the first. Is there anything that you're learning from the first project that you're transferring to the second?
Yeah, definitely. A lot, I would say. And I think it's really good to keep some of the partners as well. Because in the first project, we were 7 partners. In the new one, we are 17. But 5 of them are the same. So they can actually talk about their experience to the new partners in the project and say, well, we did these mistakes, but we solved it this way. And a lot of the partners can also share different methods of dealing with administration and all this other stuff that you have to do in a project, because it's not only go out and dig in the nature. There's so many steps before you actually doing the restoration, and there they can help each other to not do the same mistakes and show how can you do it the easy way. So I think it's very good.
Sorry, go on.
Yes, I think it's very good to try to keep a robust organization that you build on into new projects, or you invite more partners into this robust organization, because you can learn so much from each other.
Okay, and you mentioned their permissions. So is permissions for the restoration works a big issue?
Yeah, I would say if you're dealing with larger restoration measures, like taking away a barrier that's 4 meter high or something, then in Sweden at least, we have to apply for a permit in the environmental court. So it's a court process, and often it is quite time consuming, resource consuming, and there you can have this conflicting interest. You have a lot of different landowners or other stakeholders that you have to take into account when doing the measure. How will it affect the landowners downstream when you take away such a big barrier, or upstream? And you have to have this dialogue with a lot of different stakeholders to get the permit. So I would say it's time consuming, so you have to take that into account when you plan for larger restoration projects.
Yeah. And how do you find the understanding of the landowners and the stakeholders, the public effectively? What's their understanding of the need for restoration?
I would say it have changed over the years. When I first started working with river restoration, it was the first I worked with. Then there was a lot of questions. Why did we do it? Why was it necessary to put back stones and boulders into a river that had been cleared from it, and you had it along the side of the river? Why should you take away a barrier? Because it didn't do any harm for anyone. But today, I think people are more aware of the problem, because we have more droughts, we have more floodings, and we talk more about it. And we, even in our project, we are out having school activities, taking out children into the river so they can start to understand how a river works. We have walks and talks, open forums. So I think we work more also with information and communication to raise the awareness of the public. But of course, in some places you will have opinion that you have to work with, and go out and show them and talk to them and listen to them, because I think it's really important to listen to their view of the river, because they are living with it, beside it. They have been living there for generations maybe, and then we can't just come and say, well, now we will do this. We have to listen to them,
Yeah.
but try to find the common goal and the solutions that we all can agree on.
Okay, so the activities educating the stakeholders and the public are having effect, but you need to keep that process up to maintain awareness. Is that fair to say?
Yes, because it can change. We have seen it in the project that started in 2019, because then most of the people living around, we will take away a quite large barrier, and the people around was positive, and it was a former hydropower plant. But now we have an energy crisis.
Yeah.
People are starting saying, well, should we actually take away the hydropower plant? Shouldn't we start it again? Because we have a energy crisis. So depending on what happens in the world and globally, the opinion can change very quickly. So you have to continue talking, information, communication with the stakeholders, with the public, because it can really quickly change depending on what happened around us.
Going back to the work and the monitoring, in particular the monitoring, it often seems to be a challenge to have long-term monitoring programs. How do you address that in the LIFE projects?
Yeah, it is a problem because a LIFE project, now we have quite long projects, 7 to 10 years. But still, if we work with mussels, and some of the mussels that we work with can be 200 years old, you will not see them before they are 20 years old. And our project is 7 years. We will not be able to actually know if we have more mussels after the project. But I think you have to use all the existing monitoring that we have in a country. For example, we have national monitoring programs where they electrofish to see the fish population trends every year in some places. And we have different type of both regional and national monitoring programs, and try to use them to see the long-term effects of your restoration measures.
And the project that's coming towards a close, are you in a position yet to think about lessons learned from that? Sort of, are there things that worked well, and maybe things that didn't work well that you could recommend people to take different approaches for?
Yes, one lesson is that the permit takes a long time, because this hydropower plant I talk about, the permit process has been going on now for 3 years. We still don't have the permit. But so that was a lesson. We didn't think that the process would take that long time, but it did. So in the new project, we have taken into account that it can take 3 years just to get a permit. But one other thing we have learned is that if you can find a really good entrepreneur that understands how a river function or how the waves out in the ocean function, and use them when you do your restorations, then the work will be much easier and it will be done in a better way, because you can easily talk to them and say, well, here we want to get more natural flow. And they can say, well, then we have to do this and that just to get a better flow. So an experienced and an entrepreneur with a good knowledge of aquatic ecosystems is, I think, a key to success in many cases.
Okay. And then finally, before we wrap up, is there anything else, any other aspects of the work that we haven't discussed that you'd like to mention, thinking about others facing the same challenges across Europe?
Yeah, I would say if you want to apply for a LIFE project, then you should also realize that it takes around 1 year to just finish up an application to a LIFE project, because you have to find the right partners, the right restoration measures and so on. So it takes 1 year to just come up with the application. And I would also send a message to the European Commission, because I heard some rumors that they wanted to cut down on the LIFE program. And I would say if they want the member states to be able to fulfill the goals in the Water Framework Directive, Habitats Directive, Biodiversity Strategy 2030, and the new restoration law, if they want the member state to be able to fulfill these goals in all these different directives and strategies, life programs are crucial, because I don't think the member states will be able to do it otherwise. So that's the mission to them. Keep the life program, and instead of decreasing it, get more funding, increase the budget.
They certainly do seem to be a good focal point for practical implementation of restoration projects. That's for sure.
Yes, and I would say we would never be able to do as much in this short time that we will be able to do with these projects. So didn't we get the funding from the LIFE project, from the European Commission, it would take, I would say, the double of time to do the same amount of measures. So to be able to speed up the restoration of our aquatic ecosystem, I would say more LIFE projects, not less.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good point to wrap up on.
Thank you.